Hello everyone and welcome back guys to episode 3 of my F1 2018 Williams Road to Glory career mode. And as you guys smashed the support and asked me on the last video, I decided I'd, go a bit crazy and upload the third video of the day from this series. Really, looking to try and make amends from last time at the Bahrain Grand Prix. I will say straight away, I think it was a bit of an anomaly.
We'll get them on the car ahead of FP1.
So that is another thing that we need to talk about. Obviously, 2 new upgrades coming onto the car ready for round 3 of the season, which will certainly give us a little bit of a boost. We've got a new goal from Emma, though. We need to qualify 16th or better in one of the next 2 Grand Prix. So obviously that could be quite difficult, but, it's certainly not impossible there. As you can see, a little bit of a preview for this Bahrain, Chinese even, Grand Prix. And then as you can see, we actually got both upgrades successfully completed there. The front downforce and the weight distribution there, so really happy with that. Hopefully this car won't behave so much like a boat this weekend, and as you can see, once again, a completely dry Grand Prix, certainly one I will certainly have, really happy with that on the whole. I'm excited to see what wet racing is like on this game, though. Unfortunately, at the moment, obviously, we don't have enough R&D points to go for any more upgrades, but we'll certainly try and have a look into, improving the car as much as we possibly can over the next few weeks. We're close. We've only need 200 R&D points for a new upgrade. But let's move on then into free practice for the Chinese Grand Prix.
This weekend sees us arrive in Shanghai for the Chinese Grand Prix. First up is today's practice session. I'm here with Anthony Davidson once again. Nice to see you, Ant, and I wanted to ask you about how you go about improving the car over the course of a practice session. How much would you say is already known from the pre-race simulations, and how much do you have to do, how much do you have to work on with a real car on a real circuit?
Well, that's a good question, Crofty, and I suppose the simple answer is that there's no such thing as too much information. As you say, the bigger teams have very complex simulations, vast numbers of clever people crunching the numbers back at base, but what they can't tell you is stuff like how the track condition's going to be, or what the temperature's going to be doing over the course of the day, and how all of that's going to be interacting with the tyre. There are so many millions of tiny variables involved in getting these cars around a racetrack quickly, but the computer can't tailor the car to a driver's specific balance requirements. At some point, you still need to put a human being in there and have them feel it through the seat of their pants. And that's what...
So yeah, interesting points raised by Anthony Davidson there.
Well, they're all fitted and good to go.
Yeah, the team just telling me about the new parts on the car, and we'll wait and see if they do the trick going into free practice here. We do, the aim is to try and get up to that 500 R&D points once again there, so we can try and put another upgrade on this car. And coming through then to finish off my track climatization lap, it is going to be the green score there, 425 points out of, purple would have been 470, so quite a bit further to go, so we'll settle for the green score there. And then on to, qualifying pace. Actually, yeah, as I said, Bahrain did really seem to be a bit of a sort of odd Grand Prix for us. The pace was back up into, the game records P17 is potentially doable for this qualifying session. Now, the new target of 15th, we're not going to try and go for that. That lap felt really good on the whole. And then on the good fuel saving, we were able to get the green score there as well. So some good upgrades, good R&D got for the team as well there. So quite happy overall with those results. I'm really going to try and sort of skip through free practice fairly quickly now. Obviously, now you guys have seen all the practice programs from the first couple of rounds. There's no real sort of point in, leaving 5 minutes of each footage in. You might as well just sort of discuss the R&D points and move on from that. And as you can see, we actually picked up 210 R&D points there, leaving us all the way up now to 570 points on the car, which I will certainly take. Williams, oddly not happy with that. I felt we got some decent milestones there, but yeah, clearly the team not so happy with that. But we will try and get a new upgrade on the car as well, obviously with that 570 R&D points. We're probably, we considered going for one of the quality control upgrades, but I think, at the moment we just want to try and go for raw upgrades on this car, as well as the fact we don't actually have enough points to go for that either. So yeah, we'll try and go for another chassis upgrade on this car. Obviously, by far its weakest point so far. So for 510 points, we've just seen which one was going to be better, but we are going to go for the rear floor under tray. That should be ready by Spain, so obviously looking forward to that upgrade as well there. But yeah, let's move on then into qualifying for the Chinese Grand Prix.
We'd like to welcome you from wherever in the world you join us today for this F1 qualifying session here in Shanghai, China. When it comes to getting lap time out of this circuit, it's traditionally been about maximizing top speed. Do you simply remove as much downforce as possible, hang on into the corners and max out down the straights?
Top speed is a key factor for this circuit. Even if you can achieve the same lap time as someone running less wing than you, chances are you'll find overtaking difficult if you have too much drag.
So yeah, after sort of free practice, we actually came into the Chinese Grand Prix with a bit of confidence in the car, a lot more confident than we were back at Bahrain, as we can see coming down the long back straight here to finish off my first run. And I must say, I've actually seemed to find quite a good rhythm around China with this car at the moment. So it is certainly, it sort of suits this car's characteristics a little bit more than Bahrain clearly did. And I wonder if it was the really cool track temperatures as well at Bahrain, obviously in the night, which unfortunately did cost us a huge amount of performance there. But down towards the line, we got up to a provisional P4 between Verstappen and Van Dorn, which are two drivers that certainly you'd expect to be making it through into Q2. And as you can see, back at base, having a look through the timing, so we were comfortably 7 tenths quicker than Lance Stroll. Once again, they're 3 tenths and, well, 4 tenths in the final sector. So really, feeling quite confident relative to my teammate. Obviously, looking to try and beat him in the driver rivalry. And just fast forwarding on through the session, you can see slowly but surely, obviously dropping it the order. It was actually going to be close whether we can make the cutoff in round 3 of the season. Would really like to get through into Q2 here and there. And, this car does feel quite confident at the moment. Quite stable around this track. It did feel a lot more like it did back at Australia. So I'm going to say that Bahrain was really a bit of an off race for the car. But there you can see, going back out then, we're going to go for one more last ditch attempt in qualifying here, hoping to try and improve my time, solidify, I'm currently P13, times can certainly tumble towards the end of sessions here, so we'll obviously have to wait and see as to what does happen with that. But getting the battery all charged up as well as enabling obviously the maximum revs here, 4 on the revs, 5 on the ERS deployment. It really does give the car a huge amount of power as we come out of the final corner. And to start my final lap of qualifying here, Van Dorn has already gone quicker than me there, so that means we're down to P14 now. Ocon is now right on the danger zone, but we're not much further away. Unfortunately, we ran a little bit wide there, cost myself a good 1.5 through turn 1, 2 tenths now, as we can see coming through turn 2 and turn 3. Dip the wheel on the curb, cannot get the car turned in, lose the back end, and, well, that was that lap. Well and truly bottled before it really had begun there, so unfortunately it had to, well, obviously we're not going to be able to get another lap in there, so we are going to return to the garage. And as you can see, by the end of Q1, Hamilton is on pole. Where are we going to be? No! We've missed out by 2 thousandths of a second to Pierre Gasly there. That was absolutely heartbreaking on the whole. On the plus side, we were able to achieve our goal of P16, which, I was a little bit questionable whether we were going to be able to do that. 3 tenths clear of Charles Leclerc, and then Lance Stroll, obviously another 10th back, with Brendan Hartley and Marcus Ericsson rounding out the grid. But that was absolutely gutting to miss out by that little, especially. If we'd been a couple of tenths off, then fair enough, but to miss out by 2 thousandths of a second for our first ever Q2 showing in the F1 2018 Williams Road to Glory, that was really heartbreaking on the whole. But we do still obviously pick up quite a few R&D points from that race as well. You can see, well, I say that race, even, sorry, qualifying. They're obviously quite a strong result in the end. 120 points gains, 180 now currently in the bank. As you can see, our rep moving up slowly but surely with Williams once again there as well, and moving obviously a bit away from the rookie. We're starting to prove ourselves against Lance Stroll. So yeah, Emma just telling us obviously a good qualifying performance by ourselves. We're actually going to go for a bit of an interesting strategy here. Obviously, we felt strong in free practice and in qualifying there, so I'm going to gamble it, and we're going to put the car on its second part. Now obviously for things like the motor generator unit and the control electronics, that's going to be all our parts used. Now obviously we can go back to the original one, but that's, it's a gamble here. I'm sure we'll easily overuse all our engine parts over the entirety of this season. This car's, we don't really need to worry about penalties. We'll probably spend most of the time towards the back of the field anyway there. So I'm going to put a whole fresh engine into this Williams, ready for the Chinese Grand Prix.
Ever since the Sauber of Felipe Massa passed Jenson Button into turn 1 at the very first Chinese Grand Prix in 2004, Shanghai has consistently provided close racing and extraordinary memories. It's where Lewis Hamilton effectively lost the title in his rookie year, and it's where Nico Rosberg claimed Mercedes' first win of the modern era in 2012. Shanghai International Circuit then, a 16-corner high-speed thrill ride. The long and ever-tightening right-hander at turns 1 and 2 tests a driver's patience, and the flat, open to the elements location, tests their skill in a crosswind. 2 DRS zones will assist passing, and overtaking is available into turn 1 and of course down the kilometre-long back straight into the hairpin at turn 14. With me today, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Now, I want to ask you about Romain Grosjean. Looks like they've got a tough race in store today, as grid penalties from changing power unit components has forced them further down the field.
Everyone has to deal with penalties or reliability issues from time to time throughout their career. You just have to suck up the pain and get on with the job at hand. Today isn't about performing a miracle to put the car back where it should be. It's about effective damage limitation.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position, and Kimi Räikkönen completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Ricciardo, Lewis Hamilton, and Verstappen, Hülkenberg, Sainz, Alonso, and Sergio Perez. Ocon, Van Dorn, Pierre Gasly, the Professor, Leclerc, Stroll, Brendan Hartley, and Marcus Ericsson. Grosjean, they've taken a grid penalty, and Kevin Magnussen rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
So here we are then, ready for the Chinese Grand Prix. Round 3 of the season, obviously, all the way up to P14 after a couple of penalties for both of the Haas cars there. This race, the game thinks it will be a one-stop there, so after Bahrain last time out, it was a bit of a gamble. You know, this time out, it is looking a little bit more solidified, like it should be a one-stop Grand Prix. But ready then for the start of the Chinese Grand Prix, our highest qualifying position so far this season. Can we convert it into a good race? 5 lights. And it's lights out and away we go there, and that has been an absolutely dreadful start for myself. They're getting a huge amount of wheel spin, and well, we've dropped all the way to the rear of the field there, 14th all the way down to 20th. That was not the start to this race that I wanted to get there. Down in towards someone though, running into the back of Kevin Magnussen there, lucky not to get any damage from that, and just trying to keep it up the inside of the Haas driver here as we come through the first couple of corners. Need to reclaim these positions as quickly as possible. Right around the outside of Magnussen, kicking out the back end ever so slightly, but just about able to keep it pointing in the right direction. Magnussen though thinks about going for a move. I'm almost running to the back of Brendan Hartley there. That could have easily been the front wing gone if we just, you know, pinched the brakes a little bit more than we did. But coming through then in through Sector 2 here, this S section I really do struggle with still. And well, Kevin Magnussen is going to go for the suck my ball strategy there of just completely shoving me off the road. Clearly no respect given by the Haas driver as we come through in towards the end of Sector 2 here. And the cars, you know, just ahead of me still starting to form into a few small trains, which is obviously really ideal for myself. You know, we don't want these guys to really be able to pull away from me all too much in the early stages of this race as we come out of the long sweeping corner. One of the corners where the AI really are actually quite weak on this game, as you can see pushing Magnussen on the exit there. Get a warning for that, which I do think was, yeah, probably justified on the whole. But with the slipstream, no DRS, obviously, with it being the first lap of the Grand Prix. Magnussen, though, romping away from me, but we're going to send it down the inside in towards the hairpin. He's thinking about going for a move on Stroll as well. He does just about give me the room halfway through the corner there, and not going to be able to get the traction on the exit to really sort of mount a challenge on my teammate, then push him out of the final corner there. So everyone really slow on their exits there as we come out onto lap 2 though. We have survived once again the first lap of the Grand Prix, and if I'm not mistaken, yeah, this is the first time this season that we've actually lost places on the first lap there as we go back down the inside of my teammate there. A tiny bit of contact made between the pair of us there, but that's certainly, you know, nothing too much to worry about there. And now back up into P16 though. Hartley next up on the road is making a little bit of a mistake there, but yeah, onto the end of lap 3, the start of lap 4. We're closing up to Brendan Hartley. You can see a few drivers are already starting to make their first pit stop of this Grand Prix on lap 4, which is really quite surprising on the whole. We send it down the inside of Hartley, a little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact there as he squeezes me out over the grass there. But yeah, the cut tyres even for this race obviously are softs, mediums and ultra softs, if I'm not mistaken. So clearly the ultra softs really do not work around this circuit. We think about going for a move on Hartley, but he well and truly shuts the door there. I give him a little bit of a punt, so I'm not going to obviously go for that move, not going to capitalise on that touring car-esque action there. So yeah, we stay behind Brendan Hartley for now in this Grand Prix as we come through the S section there. That Toro Rosso looking much more planted than this Williams car. But onto the end of lap 4 though, and we've got the slipstream, we've got the DRS now. Rich Rev's hot lap ERS deployment. Hartley moves to the inside there to defend his position. Are we going to be able to get him on the outside as we break now down into the hairpin? We try and squeeze him on to the curbs there. He does back out, and now up into P12 of the Grand Prix. Even more cars now, as you can see on the mini-map, are all starting to pit as we run a little bit wide out of the final corner onto lap 5 of this Grand Prix. We're now going to be up inside the top 10 here, so this has clearly gone alright so far in this race. And just a couple of laps later, you can see we're all the way up to P4, as obviously all the Ultrasoft runners have now made their pit stops here. But we had a bit of an issue at this point of the race. You know, obviously we hadn't made our pit stops yet, and well, we had a few very, very quick drivers just behind me there. Kimi Räikkönen sending it down my inside and proceeding to park it coming through into sector 3. They're not really too happy with that move by him. Run the wheel out onto the curb, which drags the car out wide, ruins the momentum on the exit of the corner there. So that's going to mean we're going to be under pressure from Daniel Ricciardo, and not really too much, unfortunately, we're going to be able to defend from him as of right now. Obviously, this Williams not quite where I hoped for it to be in a later date there. So Ricciardo down the inside actually locks up the inside wheel there. So unfortunately squeezed me out a little bit wide there, but does make that move stick in the end. A very, very robust Daniel Ricciardo-esque move. And as we move on a couple of laps later though, we've still got Hartley sniffing all over the rear of me. Hamilton just coming just in front of me as well. So luckily, you know, that we didn't cause too... Well, really, you know, if you hold up the fastest cars as a driver in a car like this, you're just going to cost yourself time. But Hartley now sends a dive down the inside in towards the final sector here. He's just going to make a little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact between the pair of us there, and now we need to try and get a good run on the exit of this corner. Short shift up into fifth gear there. Hartley has to dip out the throttle ever so slightly. We're going to be in the slipstream. We're going to have the DRS as well here. Rich Revs, we need to turn up the engine as well, but we're going to pull to the inside. Verstappen's going to pull to the inside. I mean, Bottas right around the outside of absolutely everyone there. We were 4 wide coming down the back straight there. That was certainly a very, very crazy moment there. Verstappen pulls off the move in the end, but that was almost like World Endurance, where you see like 2 LMP1s go right around the outside of LMP2 cars. The amount of speed that both Verstappen and Bottas had over myself and Hartley there, that was certainly a heart-in-mouth moment coming down the back straight. But onto the end of lap 12 though, Hartley's still all over the back of me now, but we do dive into the pit lane on the end of this lap. Obviously the one stop, 12 laps done on that set of soft tyres there, 16 on the medium, certainly should be quite easy to do on the whole there. So obviously we had to wait and see about how we do fare towards the end of the Grand Prix. That would certainly be a bit of a tyre management race to the end. Get a very, very good stop there, as well as Hartley and Magnussen there, both getting held up by Marcus Ericsson there, so we've been able to gain a huge amount of time on those guys, so hopefully they won't pressure us towards the end of this Grand Prix. But all the way now down back to P16, but a lot of drivers do have to make another pit stop in the late stages of this race, as you can see, all the way now back up to P15, pretty much straight away there. 4 laps later though, lap 16, and we are, well, as you can see, a few more drivers diving it down into the pit lane here, running a tiny bit wide out of the final corner once more there. That curb actually quite forgiving on the whole, as you can just see looking at the top left hand side, moving back up into the points of this Grand Prix here. So maybe we're going to see another sort of Australian-esque race where we really do play the tyre strategy absolutely fantastically on the whole. But still, you know, 11 laps to go. All these guys are going to be on quicker tyres right through to the very end, so it's going to be very, very tough to try and defend from a lot of these drivers. Nico Hülkenberg all over the back of me there, not even, well, half a lap later he's closing up to the back of me. You can just see there he's not even particularly close as we come out onto the back straight, but well, the AI are just phenomenally quick down the straight here. Hülkenberg to the outside as we break down in towards the hairpin there. He's going to squeeze me out over the curb, but he is going to be able to get the traction on the exit of the corner there. Back up into P10 of the Grand Prix, but fortunately for me,
some strange readings from a couple of the sensors. I don't think you need to be worried. It's just some bad data, so keep doing what you're doing, and I'll let you know if I notice any genuine problems.
So an interesting message there from Jeff, but fortunately for me, Sainz actually dives into the pit lane there. So we lost the place to one Renault and we gained it back again thanks to the other. So we're still now in the points of this Chinese Grand Prix. We've got Sainz and I think Alonso that are both breathing down on me over these next couple of laps. It's going to be interesting to see what we can do against those guys as we move on to lap 20 here. And well, they are just so much quicker than me at this stage of the Grand Prix. See Carlos Sainz all over the back of me as we come out of the first complex of corners. Gets a phenomenal run there. A little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact as we almost get spun as we come down in towards Sector 2 there. But Sainz moves past me. Alonso tries to have a sniff of the inside. And honestly, I'm just going to let him through as we come into this corner because, well, I won't lie, my strategy, my thinking at the time was, you know, if those two can fight each other for the rest of the Grand Prix, maybe, you know, we could still have a chance at scoring points here. And although they did fight towards the end of the race, unfortunately, it just was not going to be enough for me. But Sebastian Vettel, 2 wins in a row now in this Formula 1 2018 season. They're really sort of staking his claim to the Drivers' Championship. I think he's had 2 wins and a 2nd place. But unfortunately for me, it was a very quiet end to the Grand Prix. Grosjean and Gasly were both closing in on me absolutely phenomenally quick, but just they fought each other, so in the end they weren't able to get close enough. So through the final corner then of this Chinese Grand Prix, it is going to be P12 at the end of the race, which is, well, after Bahrain I will certainly take that.
That's the end of the race. We'll see you in park for the mate.
A great win then for the Maranello team today. And Anthony Davidson, give me your thoughts. How did they accomplish this result?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
So, here they come now, out onto the podium. Wherever you go, anywhere in the world, the prancing horse flags are dominant in the grandstands, and they're out in force again today. It's Ferrari on the top step once more.
So there we are then, guys. That has been the end of the Chinese Grand Prix. They're very, very happy.
Then, it's time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. It's a good result for Sebastian Vettel, who moves further ahead at the top of the table. Now then, Anthony Davidson, who was your driver of the day?
It's got to be Romain Grosjean. He was in another league for me today. Really impressive.
And now let's take a look at the Constructors' Standings. Ferrari extend their lead at the top of the championship. Well, what a weekend that has been. Please join us next time for another thrilling instalment of this Formula 1 season.
So yeah, Seb able to take home the win ahead of Lewis Hamilton there, finally scoring good points in that race. Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Verstappen, Hülkenberg, Perez, Van Dorn and Sainz round out the points, with Fernando Alonso, myself, Gasly, Grosjean, Hartley, Leclerc, Stroll and Ocon all missing out, with Ericsson and Magnussen there both retiring from that Grand Prix. So clearly Ferrari do have a few small reliability issues with that car as well there. But yeah, as I said, really actually quite happy. I never thought I'd say that. Happy with P12 in that race, you know. After Bahrain, I was honestly quite nervous about heading on with this Road to Glory because, well, the Williams was an absolute dog on the whole. But yeah, happy overall with that race. P12 in the driver's standings. You can see Seb now has got a 7-point lead over Bottas. Verstappen is up to, well, he's holding on to P3 at the moment. Raikkonen moves ahead of Ricciardo there, with Hamilton moving way up the order as well, on to 26 points. Hülkenberg, best of the rest now, well, tied with Esteban Ocon there for best of the rest, with Sainz and Alonso rounding out the top 10. Then you've got Sergio Perez on 5, myself on 4, tied with Romain Grosjean. Then Van Dorn and Magnussen on 2, with Pierre Gasly on 1 point, leaving just the Saubers, Stroll and Brendan Hartley left to score after the first 3 rounds of this Drivers' Championship there. In terms of the Constructors though, and obviously Ferrari, after that, well, double podium finish there, they were already in the lead of the Constructors' Standings. They will continue with that. 21 points clear now of Mercedes, with Red Bull in 3rd place still. Renault, Force India, McLaren, Haas, ourselves, Toro Rosso with 1 point, and then obviously Sauber still yet to get off the mark there. A bit unfortunate for them but their car just doesn't quite have the pace in the early stages of the season there. But yeah, overall then though, as I said, very, very happy with that Chinese GP in the end, obviously. P12 I think was earned, you know, it wasn't a case of like Australia where we did get quite a good result due to a lot of faster cars retiring than me. You know, Magnussen would have probably been right there with me in terms of the end of the race, but I don't think obviously Rixon was going to be able to do so.
Amazing performance out there. You must be really happy.
Yeah, certainly quite happy on the result. You really looked in control of the car right there. You must be thrilled. Just couldn't do this without a great team behind me. You know, give Williams a bit of happiness after that one. It wasn't the cleanest race today. I thought about going with, I'm not sure what happened there to be honest, but then I thought, you know, the team want me to be a bit of a showman, so I'm going to go with, I was like an idiot magnet today because, well, Haas, you know, their drivers sometimes do have a tendency to crash as well. But as I said, that has been the end of the Chinese Grand Prix. Thank you guys so much for the support on the 3 career mode episodes today. I'll probably drop it down to 2 tomorrow, and further on, you know, we'll aim to try and get season 1 bashed out pretty quickly on the whole. But as I said, thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and trying to hit 7,500 subscribers at the moment, and then potentially 10k further on down the line. But I will see you guys next time for the European Grand Prix.